you can find all kinds of free spell supplies out there in nature. The one I'm going to be talking about today, you guys, is super surprising and can be used in all kinds of spells. Spells for transformation, overcoming challenges, luck, community, communication, renewal, rebirth, authenticity, longevity, healing, and yeah, even love and lust. I'm talking about cicadas. And even if you don't want bugs on your altar, don't worry, I've got you covered. Because if cicadas are swarming in your area, you can work with that energy even if you don't have your hands on any. I have all kinds of ideas for cicada magic, you guys, coming up next. Welcome to the Witch's Studio. I am, of course, Mickie Mueller, author, illustrator, and witch, not necessarily in that order. And today we're going to be talking about an insect that is near and dear to my heart, the lovely cicada. Yeah, I know, not everybody wants bugs on their altar, and that's okay if you don't. I still have some ways in which you can work with cicadas while they're flying around, singing in the trees, doing their thing. This video is going to be broken up into sections, you guys. The first section is going to be ways in which you can work with cicadas magically while they are in their life cycle, while they're flying through the trees and different things like this. And you don't even have to touch them to work with cicadas. The second part of this video is going to be about working with cicada shells, which you find all over the place when they are swarming during their life cycle in your area. They're those little shells that you see hanging on the trees, and it looks like an actual bug, but the back is split open. And that is where the cicada emerges with its wings and goes flying through the trees and having a great summer. The third section is going to be about working with cicada wings, which once they pass on, if they're really swarming heavily in your area, you're likely to find cicada wings just laying around on their own. And if you do, you can grab those up and save them for spell work. And then the last section of this video, and I'll put markers below so that if you want to skip past that stuff and go directly to watch whatever section that appeals to you, because I don't want to trigger anybody or make anybody like freaked out. And some people don't like looking at bugs. So, but that fourth part of the video is going to be working with actual dead cicadas after they've completed their life cycle and you find them on the ground. No killing of anything. I don't kill cicadas for my spells. I don't recommend that you do either. First of all, it's not necessary because you will find them every summer probably if you live in an area where they are. And the second reason is if you're wanting to work magically with cicadas or any living creature's energy, you want to respect their life cycle, and killing one really is kind of counterintuitive to that. You want them to complete that life cycle in order to work with them magically. So how do we figure out how to work with cicadas in magic? Well, there's a couple of things that we can look at, okay? We can look at the folklore of cicadas, and then the second thing that we can look at is their life cycle. What they do determines how we would work with them magically. So cicadas, not to be confused with locusts, who are actually just grasshoppers that lost their damn mind. Cicadas can be found all over the world, not in every single geographical area. But yeah, cicadas are a pretty far and wide-ranging insect. The Greeks associated them with Saturn because they spent so much time living underground. They also associated them with Apollo. And it was said that the cicada's song is actually them singing to Apollo, the sun god. So that's kind of cool. In China, in the Han Dynasty, it was a really popular practice for them to carve a little cicada that looked similar to this necklace that I have on, and they would carve it out of jade, and then they would put that jade cicada in the mouth of the deceased. And this was supposed to bestow a deathless kind of permanence to the dead. It was also supposed to help the dead overcome the bureaucracy of the afterlife. Like it's all Beetlejuice over there on the other side, and help ensure that you would have a good transformation into their next life. So although I hadn't thought of it before, maybe Overcoming bureaucracy would also be helpful with the use of a cicada in a spell. Just a thought. The Hopi people have legends about cicadas too. And it was said that the cicada chorus, which is what it's called when they're screaming in the trees, which I think is kind of cool. But it was said that a cicada chorus singing, their vibrations of that could heal you from arrow wounds. So I'm feeling like, because they live underground for so long and they emerge into the light and then do their song, that cicada song would be really useful for healing old wounds, right? That makes sense to me. And yeah, I've been using cicada energy in some of my shadow work for me to remember to speak my truth, working on my authenticity, getting back to who I feel like I'm meant to be. We're all on that journey, aren't we, really? So these are just parts of the cicada legend that we can look at to guide us into what kind of spells we can work using cicada energy. So the next thing that we can look at to determine what kind of spells that we can work with cicada energy is their life cycle. I am going to have a link to a really great video down there. I might even put a card for you guys up here too, where he really goes into it in depth. I'm just going to give you the bare bones basics. But for those of you who are curious and you want to know more after watching this video, or maybe you just always wanted to know more, check his video out. He has a whole channel that's all about cicadas. One of the cool things that I learned from his channel was the Cicada X that's all over the place right now, because I'm shooting this in the summer of 2021 and they're going bonkers on kind of like the eastern part of the United States right now. Those are the periodical cicadas that complete their life cycle every 15 to 17 years. These are 17-year ones that we have this year. They're all the same genus, but that species of cicada is called magic cicada. If anybody had any doubt whether you could use cicadas for magic, scientific proof says. Anyway, we'll have our periodical cicadas, the ones that you guys have on the East Coast right now. Those will be hitting Missouri, for those of you who are in Missouri with me, in 2024. But we will still have cicadas this year. They're going to be the annual guys, which is just a different species of cicada. Okay, but what we really want to look at, you guys, is their life cycle. And that is where we get some more information about how we can work with cicadas in magic. And I share this with you because I've come up with ways to work with cicadas in magic, but you might come up with some too if you're more aware of their life cycles. Something might spark in your mind and make you go, oh my gosh, here's something that Mickie didn't even think of. Another way I can work with cicada magic. Here's the lowdown. Okay, cicadas in the summertime, they lay their eggs on trees in the bark, and then those eggs hatch, and these tiny little nymphs, they hustle down the trees as fast as they can to get away from any predators, and they burrow down into the ground. So I think of it like the world tree, where we have the middle world, which is the present, and we have the lower world, which is the underworld, right? Where the roots of the trees are. And then we have the upper world, where the tree branches branch up into the sky. And this is important because the cicada absolutely makes this journey, this spiritual journey of the three realms, which are often described as a tree. So they begin in the middle world, on the tree trunk, right there on the tree trunk. They burrow down into the underworld. And that's where they live for the majority of their life cycle. Some people say they're sleeping down there, but they're not. They're gathering the mysteries of the underworld. They're also tunneling and burrowing. And physically, they are eating from that tree, the tree of life, where they were actually born. They live on the sap that they get from the tree roots. So they're fed sweetness the whole time that they're there in the underworld, and they're learning the mysteries. And they also shed their skin, their exoskeleton, several times while they're down there in the underworld. While they're down there, their shell is soft. It's not a hard shell like what we see when they're up here during their emergence. Think of them as us when we're still unformed and figuring out who we are. And they're learning and growing and getting bigger and bigger. And then divine timing kicks in. And nobody knows why, but they reach a point where they're like, ding, I'm done. And we've all been there, right? I've been there. You've probably been there too, where you're like, I'm done. I'm ready to emerge. I'm ready to come up and face the world and do the things. That happened to me when I started this YouTube channel. That was one of my moments. And I think that we've all been there. They poke these holes in the earth. They climb up and they leave these holes that looks like someone took a wooden spoon. You know, a wooden spoon, kitchen witches? With that dowel rod looking handle that they come with. It looks like someone stuck a wooden spoon all over the ground, because that's about the size of the holes that they climb up out of. So they climb up, they go right back to the middle world, the tree trunk, where they were hatched. You'll also find them low on fences, anything where they can get a grip with their little claws. And they latch on, they kind of hang out there for a little bit and let their shell harden. This shell has protected them the whole time they've been down in the underworld, right? And this is something that happens to us when we're in a dark place. We develop a shell. Sometimes that shell is no longer useful for us. We've come up with ways to protect ourselves that may not be useful once we've emerged from that state and gone into our next state. So we have to have the wisdom to let go of that shell and become who we are meant to be, and leave those old protections behind, because they're not going to work for us as we grow and move forward. All right, so the next thing that happens is the back of that shell splits open and they start to emerge. They pull themselves out of that. They have wings, and their wings come out. And that's where your transformation magic comes from. Transforming from one thing to another. Releasing what no longer serves you. Leveling up, baby. Then they're ready to spread their wings, and they start flying all over the place. They fly up into the trees, and they sing and they sing and they sing, and they drive you crazy because they're so darn loud you can't even talk on your phone outside because the cicadas are buzzing like mad. And what is that song? They're manifesting for the next generation. That song, according to legend, is meant for Apollo. According to science, that's their mating call. They're sending out energy to find love, to manifest everything that they're meant to manifest. So now they're in the upper world. They're in the realm of spirit, and they're manifesting for the future. They're manifesting for the next generation to keep them going. And then after they mate, the females lay their eggs right there on the bark of that tree, which we are associating with the middle realm, the present, the physical world, and they die. They have completed their mission. That's the end of their story. But the next generation lives on. And the cycle happens all over again. So that is the story of the cicada. So that gives us a lot of ideas about ways in which we can work with the cicada magically. Now, we are going to get into some witchcraft working with cicada energy. First up, working with live cicadas during their life cycle. So there's 3 spells that you can work with live cicadas as they are living their happy little cicada life. The first idea that I have for you is when you're outside and you hear the cicadas singing in the trees, all right? That's a lot of energy. They're just clicking, 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 and that's where their song comes from. And all that energy that they're raising, we can work with that. So what you do is and this is a very simple spell that you can do with no supplies at all. You just sit there and you think about your goal, your purpose. What do you want to add to the cicada song? Any of the magical correspondences that we have for cicadas, you can work into the cicada song because they embody all of those things. But cicada song specifically works really well for witchcraft working with finding love, reigniting passion in your life, or healing. The first 2 is because, of course, it's a mating call. So what you do is you drum up those feelings that you want to have. If you're looking for love in your life, think about the things that you want to embody in that, right? If you want to, you can write them down, but you don't have to. Just focus them in your mind, picturing the attributes that you would like for the love that you're looking for in your life. Focus on that, think about those attributes, and then just begin humming. Start humming along with the cicadas and send your energy out to them because they're great communicators. Their chorus is so loud, and you can join in that chorus and send your intentions up with them and allow that to radiate out into the world and bring you that love that you're looking for. And it doesn't even have to be a beautiful song. If you listen to those cicadas, it's just like clicking and stuff. So you don't have to be really good at singing. You can just hum along, just hum it from your heart and send that energy up to the cicada choir and join in their choir. Same thing with healing, you guys. If you're doing shadow work, you could literally do it the same way. It's just instead of focusing on love or passion, you're going to focus on what you want to release. You're going to focus on your healing. You're going to focus on those old wounds, and you're asking the cicadas to cast their magical vibration spell over you to help you heal those old wounds that you carry. Number 2 is you can work with cicadas for luck and success. I call this a catch and release spell, you guys, but you don't have to touch them at all. But if you see a cicada nearby and it's alive, quite simply, all you have to do is look at it. Tell it any message that you want to send far and wide. What do you want to be lucky in? Are you starting a new business? Are you trying to find a new home? Are you looking for a new car? Whatever you're trying to get luck to work in your favor to achieve. And you just tell that cicada that you see, that little living cicada that's clinging to a branch or landed on your porch. And you just tell them, hey, little cicada, I'm looking for some good luck, and you're good luck for me, so here's what I want. When they fly away, they take your wishes off with them. Now, they're going to be singing their song, and who does their song go to? To Apollo, god of the sun that we work with for success. The only other thing that you're going to want to do with this spell is grab yourself a bay leaf, which is a great offering for Apollo, and you just light it and let it burn to manifest your wish that you told to the cicada. The third one is you can work with those holes where the cicadas burrowed up if you can find any. And you don't always see them, but some years I've noticed them all over the place. You could literally write a petition for a goal that you want to manifest. Make sure that you find out what brood and species the cicada is that's in your area right now, because that's the time period in which your goal is going to be shooting for. So this is like a long-term goal. Like, say you're saving up money for a house and you have already figured it's going to take you 2 years to save up that down payment and work on your credit or whatever it is that you want to do. So you write your goal on a slip of paper. If you have a 2-year cicada that has come up in your area, you're going to roll that petition up and you're going to put it down in that cicada hole where the cicada came up from. Makes sense, right? And then it should be manifesting for you in the same time period that it took that cicada to do their life cycle in the underworld. You're sending it down so that it will come back up. So those are 3 ways in which you can work with live cicadas during their life cycle. If you're grossed out by those cicada shells, this next part is not going to be for you. Okay, so I wanted to start this out showing you guys how to use a cicada shell to hold a petition. It's a great way to work some magic. As you can see, there's a spot there in the top of the shell where you can add a petition, but it's a really small spot. So how are you going to get a piece of paper in there? It's so small. Well, I've worked it all out for you guys. The key is tissue paper. This is tissue paper that we use in our shop for packaging items that we ship out. I just trimmed a little piece off. As you can see, it's really thin, so I'm going to be able to roll that up really small. First, I wrote out my petition, and this one I'm doing for transformation. I'm using the words transform my pain into power and healing. You can use this idea for lots of different kinds of magic. Now I'm going to take that petition, I'm going to tear any extra paper off because of course you want it as small as you can get it. I am using a toothpick, and you can wind that piece of paper around the toothpick to make a tiny, tiny scroll. As you can see, it's fairly easy to do. And when you're finished doing it, you're going to have something that's definitely small enough to fit inside of that cicada shell. You can do this for transformation or protection, and I bet you can think of other things that you can do with this method as well. As you can see, it fits in there nicely. You can adjust it a little bit with the toothpick and get it down in there. These shells are very delicate, so you have to be very careful not to break it, but that is how it turned out. I'm really happy with it. Now this is something that we can use that shell for. We're going to create a transformation jar spell. I've used a baby food jar on this one. I just spray painted the lid gold for that baby food jar. You can use any jar that you have. Now I used the base of this. I used some sea salt. You can use any salt that you have. It doesn't have to be the same as the kind that I used, but I like that as a base. And then I used clover for transformation. I just went ahead and pulled the little petals off so that it wouldn't take up as much room in the jar. I used ginger for power and transformation. I also used a frankincense tear because that is made from tree sap, and as we know, cicadas love to eat tree sap, so that's a gift to them. Bringing in some Apollo energy, I decided to add this sun charm that I got when I made my purchase from White Raven's shop. So I put that in there to represent Apollo and the summer solstice. I've got some labradorite, another stone that's great for transformation. I used the number of 7 because 7 is one of the numbers that's associated with cicadas. And I also included some cinnamon in my spell to heat it up. I also added a bay leaf, which is also associated with transformation, success, and yes, associated with Apollo. Now next, I had some personal items, different stones and things that are representing the kind of transformation that I'm working on personally. If you're doing this spell, you should choose some items that represent things that you're personally trying to transform in your life. And you know, that there could be all kinds of transformation. You could be working on mental health transformation. You can be working on transforming all kinds of things. And some people are gender transitioning. And this is a wonderful spell if you're gender transitioning to work with. So there is my cicada that I added my petition to. And I am popping that inside of the jar. And now I am charging it with my intention, focusing on my goal. And I am going to put that lid on and seal it. Some people like to put wax on the lid or tie it with a string. There's all different methods for sealing that permanently. I will do that later. I had so many spells to get through here, I didn't want to waste the time showing you sealing it with wax, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Now here's another example of a spell bottle that you can do using one of these cicada shells. This one is for protection magic. We have another cicada shell with another petition inside that's for protection. Now this one I'm starting with black salt. I do have a video on how to make your own black salt. I will reference it up above if you need to know how to make it. It's fairly easy. I used lavender. I love lavender for protection magic. We will be doing more lavender magic soon. That is honeysuckle that I harvested myself. Also a very protective herb. I have 3 cloves. There's another frankincense tear. You know why we're using that. Same reason. I decided to add some dragon's blood resin, another resin, and also very protective. I have 5 black tourmaline beads. 5 is another cicada number because there are 5-year cicadas. I'm adding that for protection magic. You can also use onyx or any protective stone of your choice. I love to throw a garlic clove in all my protection spells. So there's that. I have a little green evil eye that I'm also going to drop into my protection bottle. And last but not least, I have some beautiful dried hydrangea flowers. Hydrangea flowers are super protective It's great for all kinds of protection magic. Highly recommend you give that a shot. And now we have our cicada, which I have written a separate petition on and put it inside of the cicada. There it is, for protection. And this is to protect my home and my family. And I'm going to gently drop that in there. Now it kind of landed on its side, and I want this to also be beautiful, not just magical, because it's going to sit on my shelf. So I took a pen and kind of manipulated that cicada around until it was in an upright position. It looks really pretty for something with an old cicada shell in it. I was really happy with how this bottle turned out. Now, same thing with this. I will probably go ahead and seal that with some wax. All the spell ingredients in this video were charged ahead of time. I didn't want the video to be too long, but I also charge each jar after I assemble it, and I'll charge it one more time when I seal it with the wax at the end. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Another way that people work with those cicada shells is they will grind them up. They will literally powder them in like a mortar and pestle and turn them into powder. And you can use this powder for protection, because what you're using is that protective shell that came out of the underworld. That's some powerful stuff, you guys. You can use it in the same way that you would use red brick dust to put across your threshold to protect your home. And I usually put it down and then I put it underneath my mat so that I can place my mat over the top of it. Works great. I would have shown this to you guys, but I only have a couple of shells because the cicadas in my area aren't out yet. I'm still waiting for them. Our cicadas will come later on in the year, and I will be gathering up a bunch more shells. Let me know down in the comments if you have any ideas for what you might use cicada shell powder for. The next cicada spell that I have for you is one that you can work with found cicada wings. After the end of the cicada cycle in your area, you're likely to find wings littering the ground. Sometimes you'll just find one when you're out on a walk and you're like, ooh, cicada wings. They look like fairy wings to me. I've always thought they look like fairy wings. And I just think they're beautiful and charming. And the cicadas aren't using them anymore. So I always pick them up and bring them home. This is a spell for stepping outside of your comfort zone. When you need some extra courage. I'm literally writing courage on this candle, and I'm writing it from top to bottom because I want to draw in courage. I used a little bergamot oil on this candle to anoint it. Again, I'm going from top to bottom because I want to draw in. I chopped up a little fresh rosemary and lavender. Rosemary for bravery and courage, and lavender to keep calm when everything around you is going bonkers. Now I'm rolling that candle in the herbs and leaving whatever herbs were left behind and to stick to the candle around the candle holder there. I'm using 7 sunflower seeds, sun for success and for bravery and for courage, and I am putting them around the candle in a clockwise direction, 7 of them with the points pointing inward. Now I have 5 of these little cicada wings. They're so pretty. And I'm going to place them also around the candle. Now, if you only have 1 cicada wing, you can still do this spell. It's okay. You don't have to do it exactly as I'm doing it. This is just an idea, jumping off place for you. I want you to take these ideas and run with them. Make them your own. I know lots of people are struggling right now about the idea of trying to get back out into the world after the pandemic. It feels weird going out without a mask. It's like not having pants on or something. So this is a great spell that you can use to kind of bolster that courage as you step out into the world again. Take your wings and fly. So what I'm doing now, I let that candle burn down. You're going to take those sunflower seeds and you're going to eat them. They're going to become part of you. You're going to absorb their energy. Now the cicada wings and all the herbs are going to go into a jar. You're going to notice that I use a lot of jars when I work with cicadas because these little bits are relatively fragile and very difficult to dust and things like that. So I like to keep them in jars. In this case, Really, it's a wonderful way to be able to carry these little beautiful wings with you in your pocket. This jar, you guys, I found at Dollar Tree. So inexpensive, there were like 6 of them. This way you can carry your cicada wings with you when you venture out into the world and be full of courage. And you knew it was coming. This is a spell using a dead cicada. I'm doing a luck jar. Now, this is a piece of moss that I have had, and I went ahead and put that in the jar. This is an old garlic jar that I have painted the lid black with some black nail polish because I'm super fancy. The next thing you're going to want is a lucky penny. This one has my birth date on it. I have a beautiful little rose, also great for luck. And if you don't have a full dried rose, some rose petals are just fine. I save lots of those. These are some dried violets that I've had over time. They're also great for good luck. I'm adding jade because, of course, jade is associated with cicadas. And I also have a little tiger's eye bead. That's a piece of aventurine, which is also great for good luck. And I have a couple of quartz crystals because plain clear quartz adds extra power and energy to all your other spell ingredients. Now I'm going to add my beautiful little lucky cicada. I've had this one for probably 4 or 5 years. And it fits perfectly inside of that nice wide mouth jar without having to worry about damaging its little wings or anything. And there it is. I love this one. And yep, there you go. It turned out really nice. Again, all of these items were charged before I put them in the jar. I charged it after I put them in the jar, and now I'm charging it now that it's closed. I will charge this one more time when I seal it, also with wax. I love these little spell jars. I think they're just beautiful. It's a really nice way to work with cicada energy. As you can see, anyone who comes into your home and sees that sitting on a shelf is probably just going to think it's an interesting and kind of pretty little oddity. Might not even realize it's actually a spell. That's a lot of cicada spells, you guys. Did you ever think that you could work so much magic with these weird little bugs and their weird little bug parts? I hope that you guys enjoyed learning about some cicada magic as much as I did, because I learned a lot about cicadas this year. And of course, if you want to work with cicadas any time of the year, you certainly can. We work with animal energies all the time of animals that we are not around. There's lots of people who are really into elephant magic, and they might collect elephants, and they will just, put a picture of an elephant on a candle. You can do this with cicadas too. And if you want to bring cicada energy onto your altar, but you absolutely do not want a little cicada body or cicada parts on your altar, I have my beautiful cicada art that I made for all of us this year that decorates my studio right back here. And I will put a link up here where you can go grab it. I have that print right there for free for you guys. That's for all of the people who come here and watch my videos. It's just for you guys. So yeah, you can definitely go grab that. It's a free download. You can print it out, pop it in a frame just like I did. It's a 5x7, and you can pop that on your altar if you want to bring some cicada energy into any of the witchcraft that you're doing. Hey, if you learned something new here, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Drop me a comment and let me know if you thought any of these spells would work for you or be useful in your witchcraft. Also, drop me a comment below and let me know if you have cicadas singing in your trees right now where you live. I do not yet, but I know they're coming. And I wanted to make sure that I made this video for those of you who were dealing with the 17-year cicadas or any big cicada emergence. If you have any witchy friends who you think might benefit from this information, make sure that you share this video with them. They will thank you. If you haven't already and you're enjoying my content, do yourself a big favor and hit that subscribe button while you're down there. Don't forget to cast a spell on the bell, because that will magically let you know when my next video goes up. I hope you guys are enjoying summer. I'm planning to go to the river. I've got all kinds of stuff planned. Make sure you stay hydrated out there in that heat. I will see you guys here again next time. But until then, here's a couple more videos I think that you'll really enjoy. Until I see you next time, stay safe, happy, and healthy, and scream in the trees. And as always, be your magic. Bye, guys.